did mine. I chose to interview my daughter. She's a senior at Millersville University. She's studying elementary education. The reason I chose her was maybe to get her perspective on growing up in our family versus my perspective of rearing her. We became our family only after her mother and I met and later married. We're a bit unique. We don't use the term step in our house. To her, I'm her dad, and she's my other daughter. So she's 22 years old. She describes her life as a happy child. Essentially, she was only child until she was 15 now. Was just her and her mom. They were divorced when she was 2 years old, so it was just her and her mom up until she was 9. Enjoyed the benefits of being an only child until her sister was born, then she had to share the stage, of course. Up until age 9, being a single parent, she learned to entertain herself mostly, but through her mother and her grandparents, who were very engaging, strong relationship, and close personal friends still remains today. But her earliest bonds were with her mother and her grandparents. So fortunately for me, she let me in part of the family. She describes her life as pretty good, which I thought was interesting, until I came along, so I'll take that as a compliment. She says it's better now. The reason for that, she came right out and said there was a full-time parent figure. I think she's kind of unique that it's a good story because it cost me a lot of money. When she graduated high school, she was badgering me about getting a laptop. And I said, no, not until you start school. And just to give you some insights into her personality, she's a very compliant child, person, young woman. And so we were at a graduation party, and she was just badgering me in front of everybody. So I said, you give me 5 good reasons why I should go out and buy you a laptop. I'll do it. She didn't have to say a word. Our friends and family stepped in and said, well, does she smoke? No. Does she drink? No. Does she ever, going on the wrong track with boyfriends? Nope. Ever been brought home by the police? Nope. And the big one, did she ever come home pregnant? She had a laptop that weekend. So she didn't have to do any work there. But that's kind of gives you an insight into her personality. As I said, she's very compliant. Even today, she's a very responsible individual. I could call her up today and say, if you need some help in the house, and she won't even question if she's available, she'll do it. Her personality was and still carefree. She doesn't worry about much of anything. Very, I don't want to say passive, but her favorite memory is playing. To this day, she's very active. She's got a warm, engaging personality. Her least favorite memory was, and this did not surprise me at all, was the death of a very close family friend and the first family pet. So she's a pretty emotional person. Some of the stressors or difficulties in her life right now include college classes and seeing it come to an end. So she's got her 3 years behind her, and now she's thinking, oh crap, money is going to run out pretty soon. So the reality's sticking into her head. And also the idea of looking for a job. What helps her deal with these is stressors and difficulties are a network of good friends and support in the class to help, as well as strong parental support to keep her focused on the task. Extracurricular activities, she's in color guard, and she has close friends in those activities as well. Her personal hero, again, this didn't surprise me either, was her grandmother, who was referred to as Meemaw. She helped raise Nell since she was 2 years old, and Meemaw was always there. She made no secret the reason why she quit smoking was so she could spend time with her granddaughter. So Nell interprets it as, she gave her 20 more years just to be with her. So that's a pretty neat story. She was a very strong woman. As I always described her, she came out dressed to the nines, and that's the kind of stuff that really was embedded in Nell. Took a lot of personal pride, and she was a great role model as a woman that had a career. She was an operator for the Bell Company for many years, so she was a great model, a role model for my girls. And she offered unconditional love. That was just the great thing about her grandparents. She realized that she was growing up after graduating from high school and working for several months prior to starting college, because she didn't start in September because her SATs were not so hot. And so she worked for 6 months before starting Millersville. And other milestones included getting her license and a car course, and then turning 21. She just turned 22 the other day, so 21 is now blasé for her. The other thing that frustrates her, she looks very young. Today, people will say, how old are you, 13 or 14, so it really ticks her off to no end. When we go into a restaurant, somebody asks her if she wants crayons, the she'd love to change the way she looks and grow professionally. Most women say, be happy. 40 years from now, you'll really like what's happened to you. What I learned from the assignment is really, it's confirmation of what I believe. My wife and I have raised a good person with good moral reasoning skills, as well as moral behavior. You know, our philosophy is just be a good person. It's that simple. We're not overly religious or anything like that, but you treat people, others well, and they'll treat you well. She is an individual with a lot of compassion who has a sense of self-worth and confidence. Probably, my perspective is that she could build up her confidence more. I'm not sure why, but that's something that, it's not that she's lacking, but she still needs to be pushed. She has developed well in her life and will continue to grow as a person. I think she's got a strong understanding of her own self-awareness, her strengths and weaknesses, and I believe her happiness has led her to a very strong self-esteem as well. The 3 traits that I focused on were 2 from Kohlberg stages, 1 and 2 pre-conventional reasoning. Both good and bad are interpreted in terms of external rewards. As a child, I mean, obviously that's something that good and bad and how what she got at home for that. Also conventional, individuals apply certain standards and they're set by others such as parents and government. And it's funny, like I said, today we could ask her to do certain things, set certain boundaries, and she'll do that. Or, you know, you just tell her you don't speak because that's what the law is. It's, younger folks probably say, yeah, he's full of it, but I'm telling you, she's a different person. Focusing also on self, the trait theories state that a personality consists of broad dispositions. People can be described in the way they behave, and that really is definitely Nell. She is a quiet person, she's a caring person, she's a compassionate person. So whoever she hooks up with later in life is probably going to be a pretty lucky individual, and those are just, that's who she is. So.
Awesome. What do you think that you learned about lifespan development through this interview process?
Oh, that everybody's an individual. One of the things I had said to Dr. Davis the other day, I traveled. My week was this morning. I left Baltimore Monday. Yesterday I was in Saratoga, New York, and I just got home. Tomorrow morning I fly to Daytona, and I'll be down there for 2 days. My youngest daughter, who's 7, is very much like me. And one of the things we talked about was the biological connections. And she is so much like me, it's scary. But she spends more time with her mother. So it really kind of looked at, I was able to start looking in the book and through the readings and understanding it's not all about the external influences. Some of it is just, you know, really what makes you up as well. I think you can change a lot of that through those external influences, but it's been an interesting compressed learning environment. How's that?
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll take yours then. So this wants to go next.
Okay, so the person I chose to interview was my great-grandmother. I chose to interview her because she's the most interesting and also the oldest person I know. I thought it would be interesting to see her answers to the questions that I asked and also to assess how well she was able to do so. It was very interesting to learn more about someone who I'm very close with, and I learned a lot more about her than I already knew. She's 97. She currently lives on her own, and she has 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and 8 grandchildren. I asked her to describe her experience as a child. She said that she had a good childhood, but she had many different experiences as a child. She lived with her mother, father, and 4 brothers and sisters in Portugal. Neither she nor her family ever went to school, so the children either did chores to help out their family, worked when they were old enough, or played with other children in their spare time. She recalled going to the river often to wash clothes for her brothers and sisters as a daily chore. She was the oldest of all the children while she was growing up, so while her mother was at work or her father was at work, she was basically in charge of everything. She said that her least favorite memory was always working hard from a young age, and she also said that her favorite memory was dancing when she had the spare time to do so. Her main stressor in her life is currently her health. She said that her ability to do things on her own is getting harder, which is stressful on her because of her independence. That's very important to her. She likes to be independent, and even when you try to help her, she doesn't often like it. But she said it is easy to deal with when she visits the doctor and receives the treatment that she needs for her legs and her back. She also has stress from losses that she's experienced recently. Her husband died when I was about 10, and then 2 years ago her son died. And it's really hard for her to cope with that, but she said that religion helps her out, and just being around the family. Her personal hero is her husband. He passed away a few years ago, like I said. Since then it has been hard for her to keep a positive outlook on life, but she manages to try to look on the bright side. She loved every aspect of him, she said. He provided her with an amazing life that she is so thankful for. He was a well-rounded man who was very caring and always there to help anyone when needed. She moved here from Portugal with him at 27 so he could further pursue his boxing career. She said that she didn't have a specific area that she would like to grow more in. She said that the only thing that she regrets kind of in life is that she never learned how to read and write because of the way her family grew up. But she also said that she realized she was growing up around the age of 10 because of the responsibility that was placed on her at a young age. And then the 3 factors I chose to discuss in relation to this interview were the sense of self and independence that she has. On still another level, developing a sense of oneself as a separate person involves learning how to manage one's internal experience. This includes having a good awareness of feelings and being able to correctly identify and label that emotional experience. It also means having enough emotional separation to have a clear sense of the ability to claim one's own emotional experience and not take that of others. To me, this relates to the interview because I know that my great-grandmother had a rough upbringing, which could have resulted in her having issues identifying herself as a child or even for the rest of her life. Even though she did go through many issues and problems, she still persevered through them and became a very independent person who knew herself very well from a young age. I also chose to discuss cognitive development, and this refers to how a person perceives, thinks, and gains understanding of his or her world through the interaction of genetic and learned factors. Among the areas of cognitive development are information processing, intelligence, reasoning, language development, and memory. I know that the bias is typically that with age, many things are forgotten or hard to recall, but even after a life of constant development, when we were talking, she was still able to recall very specific facts from a young age to her current age. She is still able to use information processing, intelligence, reasoning, language, and memory to recall her life experiences. And then the third one I chose to talk about was the integrity and despair. Erik Erikson devised a framework for development based on psychosocial stages, and he defined the last stage of life as a tension between integrity and despair. Individuals either come to accept their lives as having meaning and integrity, or they contemplate their life as unproductive and unfulfilling, with a feeling of despair. In actuality, developmental researchers believe that most individuals fall somewhere in between these 2 extremes typically. But during the interview, I could see that my grandmother was reflecting upon her life and was also talking about the way she feels about her life. And I do believe that from what I saw in her, she reflects back on her life with a feeling of integrity and meaning. And in conclusion, I do believe she was constantly developing over the span of her life thus far. And she could even still develop further in many ways if she really chose to. I thought that it was a very interesting project that allowed me to see the relation of developmental psychology to an elderly individual. It showed me that even in old age, some people can retain much of the knowledge and memories that they have gained over their lifespan. I have another one to do. Is that okay? I wrote on this one.
The person I chose to interview was my dad. I chose him because, you know, he's been in my life, my entire life, and he's always been a big part of my life, and I really admire him, and I look up to him for what he's accomplished in his life. And I was just curious to see how he would answer these questions about, you know, his childhood and things like that. He's 48 years old. He describes his experiences as a child as growing up in the country. He did a lot outside. He lived on a farm, so a big responsibility of his was taking care of farm animals. He liked to ride horses, and he went on a lot of different vacations with his mom and dad and his two sisters. He says he describes himself as being adventurous and a risk taker as a kid. He was always very respectful to adults. That was something that was really pushed in his household. And he says he did okay in school. He was someone that people would say had like no fear. He was just one of those kids that was always like getting hurt and getting in trouble. He says one of his favorite memories was going on family vacations, specifically one where it was a 2 to 3 week trip. They went across the country, and he talks about, you know, going to the Arch in St. Louis, and the Grand Canyon, and the Petrified Forest, and Paint Deserts, and things like that. And he says one of his favorite times from that trip was going. He was a guest of honor at the rodeo in Texas, so one of his favorite memories. And his least favorite memory was when he and his sisters would have to go visit his grandmother Janie and his Aunt Linda. And I never met grandmother Janie, but I know Aunt Linda, and she's not a very pleasant woman, so I can imagine that that wasn't very fun. He says some stresses in his life are the economy and, you know, the pressures of providing for his family. He says he likes to deal with these stresses by playing golf or going on vacations with his friends. He also likes to hang out with his kids and going to their sports events. He says his personal hero is his Uncle Lou. He describes him as someone that could do anything, could fix anything. And he says he taught him a lot of stuff like rebuilding things and working on cars. He talked about how his first car that he ever bought was his Corvette that he still has. And he and Uncle Lou completely rebuilt it and fixed it up. And he says he always enjoyed spending time with him, listening to his stories, and he just really respected him as a person. He says he knew he was growing up when he turned 18. He had to decide what he wanted to do with his life. He went to college, and then he decided that he didn't want to be in college anymore, so he dropped out and he started his own business, which he still has. It's very successful. And just, you know, having to go through that and, you know, making his own decisions and paying his way through life was a really big eye-opener to him as he was growing up. And he says he would like to continue growing in wisdom and financial security. Some concepts I saw that applied to this interview, one was from Module 3, where they talk about memory and how with memories you take experiences and you encode them and store them in your brain, and then you retrieve them for later use. And I saw that throughout this interview, I was asking questions that you don't really think about very often, so he had to go into his memory and think about these and take experiences and apply them to this interview. Another one was in Module 4, where they talk about parenting, and I thought that was illustrated through this interview because they talk about how you have to make different decisions and different career choices and life choices, and you have to kind of change your roles and your responsibilities as a person for your kids. And this was illustrated as he discussed how he would like to grow in wisdom, specifically wisdom that he can pass on to his kids. how he'd like to be financially stable for them. And I think about how, you know, maybe the stresses in his life for providing for his family wouldn't really be so great if he didn't have kids. So that's definitely a career choice that he had to make by having kids to work harder at his job. And just with, you know, wanting to grow in wisdom, it's something that he's choosing to do for his children. So he's definitely made a lot of changes in his life for kids. And the last concept I saw was in Module 2, where they talk about behavioral-social cognitive theory, and it's discussed how this theory states that behavior is a part of development and is learned through observation and imitation. And I saw this when he was talking about his Uncle Lou, which is his personal hero, and he just named all these characteristics about him, and I really see that in my dad, and I see that he's kind of a lot like him, and that's just shown that through observing him and, you know, imitating him in some ways, he's kind of, you know, taken on some of the characteristics that his uncle has. Something I learned from this assignment is that some of the things that he said were things that applied to me, like, you know, similar things that he enjoyed in life, or going on family vacations, which I definitely enjoy. And maybe not as big, but when I turned 18, I definitely had a new round of responsibilities that I had to deal with, and that was his answer too. But also, you know, the values and stresses that come with life are very different at different points in your life. I think he's developed in a very successful and mature way. Just, you know, he didn't come from a poor family, but he came from a family that didn't have, you know, much money, and they had to kind of make do with what they had. So he, you know, took his business and, you know, made it from nothing. So that kind of matured him quickly. But he also keeps his fun side, I think, from being a kid that was kind of risk taker and, you know, just like to have fun. He definitely still does that now. He'll go like cave diving with his friends down in the Dominican Republic. So he still likes to keep that little like risky way about him, and he also likes to take his kids on family vacations. He's always been big in that. So I think that his experiences as a kid have like stuck with him through life. And something I've learned about lifespan development is that it definitely never stops. I choose someone that was in their late 40s, and they've obviously learned a lot in life, and they have more experiences than I would, but I don't think they'll be the same person in 20 years. They'll definitely have more things to talk about and more things that they've learned from. So you definitely never stop developing. It goes from birth till death. Do you want the interview like that is summarized?
I don't believe so. Whatever the assignment that Dr. Davis had for each of them, so it's just the paper. It's just a typewritten summary of all 5 interviews.
Oh yeah, I have to get back to you then.
Okay. You emailed him today about,
He's sending me.
okay.
I chose this person because I felt comfortable talking to her. She's one of my best friends. She's 29 years old, and she's very easy to talk to. She's married. She has no children. When I asked her about her childhood experiences, she described her childhood as being fun and happy. She denied any traumatic events or bad out that she was growing up at age 13 because of her independence and maturity, because others will tell her, and also because of her changes in puberty and all that. She said that she would like to continue growing spiritually. And the three concepts that I found during the interview that I chose was emotional intelligence, which is the ability to perceive and express emotions accurately and adaptively, to understand emotion and emotional knowledge, and to feelings, to facilitate thought and manage emotions in oneself and others. I thought her emotional intelligence was high because of the way she would express her feelings towards her mother, and the way she would identify her feelings within her, and how she now she can understand her mother and kind of justify her, I would say. Also, I think the second concept I chose was self identity. She's very sure and understands who she is. She never let any of that. She also mentioned in the interview how moving to another country was so difficult for her because she was rejected. She felt discriminated and all that. But she had like such a good self identity and self esteem that she didn't let that took her down. Like, she still struggled with a lot of things, but she came out of that. And self-identity is who the person is, and representing synthesis and integration of the self-understanding. The third concept that I chose was parenting styles. With her mother, the way she described her relationship with her and how she grew up, I thought her mother had an authoritarian parenting style, which is the restrictive, the punitive style of parenting. She would say that she was not allowed to do a lot of things like what other kids did. Her father was a little bit more lenient and more open to listen to her, but her mother was more like controlling. And I think my interviewee developed to grow stronger from difficult situations, and she continues to grow in different aspects of her life, like career-wise and family-wise. And I learned through this course and about the development of lifespan is that it's a long process that ends with death, and that has many phases and stages of life. And there's a continued growth of development for all of us in it that ends with death.
Oh, you have one.
Do you need me to chew on?
I'm Andrew. I interviewed my grandmother. She's 66 years old, and I interviewed her basically because she's been a huge part of my life. She's been a major influence on me. I just wanted to see what she would say to these questions, and maybe I could learn a little bit more about her. When I asked her about her childhood experience, she said she grew up in a great household with a happy and loving family. She had 2 sisters, and they were all brought up pretty well. They weren't really spoiled. They had to work for everything that they wanted. And then when I asked her what her favorite memory from her childhood was, she said her grandmother was blowing up balloons for her birthday one year, and her false teeth came flying out of her mouth. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then her least favorite memory of her childhood, she said she woke up really early one morning when she was younger, and she went downstairs and woke her father up, and he wasn't really happy with her because it was early. So he kicked her in the butt to go back upstairs, and as he kicked her, she tripped and fell up the stairs and hit her face on the railing, giving her a black eye, and she wasn't really happy about that. But when I asked her about her stressors in her life, she said she doesn't really have any. She's retired, so she doesn't have too many stressors. The only stressor she recalled was recently they had to put down one of their Jack Russells because she had kidney failure, and it was a really rough time for her and my grandfather. But when I asked her what helped her cope with it, she said she talks to God a lot, and also that my grandfather is a big help in dealing with things because she can talk to him about anything and he'll listen. And then with that, she said that he is also her personal hero, which I could believe. And then when I explained to her that like we're all growing and developing throughout our life, I asked her when she realized she was growing up, and she said when she had her children, she realized she was growing up. And then she also said that she realized she was still growing as they grew. She watched them through their experiences, and through their experiences as they grew, she also grew. And then when I asked her what area of her life she would like to grow more, it was kind of funny because she said she would like to have more knowledge of computer technology. And it's really funny because she texts me all the time asking me, because she has an iPhone 4, and she asks me how to use it all the time, and I just set everything up for her. The 3 concepts I chose, one was gratitude, and the book defines it as a feeling of thankfulness and appreciation, especially in response to someone's doing something kind or helpful. And I thought of this because when she was saying that her husband is her hero, to me it was saying how thankful she is for him being in her life and for all that he does for her, helping her cope with things and talking to her. The second concept I chose was memory and explicit memory. And the book defines memory as retention of information over time, and explicit memory as conscious memory of facts and experiences. I thought of this because we all always have our childhood memories and experiences in the back of our minds. And when I asked her about her 2 memories, they were like instant answers, so they're always there. And then the final concept I chose was lifespan perspective. And it says that perspective, that development is lifelong, multidimensional, multidirectional, and contextual, and involves growth, maintenance, and regulation of laws constructed through biological, sociocultural, and individual factors working together. And I thought of this because she explained how she's always constantly developing and growing. We're always constantly developing and growing. And she, like everyone else in life, has to deal with losses and cope with them and work through them. So I thought that one fit really well. The thing I learned from her, well, my opinion, how she developed, she grew a lot through life. And then, I know she didn't say this was a stressor, but it had to be because 7 years ago, her and my grandfather sold their house to my dad and mom because my dad's the oldest, and they wanted to travel the country in an RV. And they sold it to my dad because he's the oldest, and my aunt and uncle didn't take too kindly to that. And for about 7 years now, my grandmother hasn't really had a relationship with her other 2 children. And I know it hurts her a lot, and she doesn't really have a relationship with her other grandchildren, so I know that has to be a stressor for her, but she deals with it and doesn't show that it hurts her and stuff, so I know she's grown through that. And then the thing that I learned is that when she said she grew through her children, it made me realize that we don't only grow through our experiences, but we also grow through others' experiences as well. And I do believe now from this class and the interview that we are always developing, like Dr. Davis says, from the womb to the tomb. So that's it.
The person I interviewed was a 27-year-old white male. I thought he would be an interesting person to interview because his path of development lately has changed drastically. About 4 months ago, he was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and so he was developing normally, not many sharp inclines or declines, and then suddenly he started having sharp inclines and sharp declines. And I just thought it'd be interesting to see how a terminal illness would affect someone's development. For the interview, about his childhood experiences, he said that they were fairly normal. He recalled moving a lot, but his family always stayed in like the same area. They didn't have a lot of money, but they did what they could. He said that he learned a lot of valuable lessons, such as being respectful to people that are older than him. His parents used harsh punishments sometimes, and it was actually his least favorite experience. Obviously, he wouldn't like the pain, but he also didn't like disappointing his parents. He named his family's annual vacations to local theme parks as his favorite childhood memory. And all in all, he said that his childhood was great. His greatest stressor right now is obviously dealing with what is statistically a terminal illness. It affects so many different parts of his life. And one of the most difficult things about it is that he has to ask for help to do certain tasks. He's 27 years old, so he's used to be able to do things for himself, and now he has to ask for help for even very small, simple things. One example that he gave was if he wants to lay down in bed, he has to have someone lift up his legs just so he can lay down. This also hurts his pride. He has a lot of pride, so it's difficult for him to ask for help, even though he is grateful that people are there to help him. And he said that this time in his life is physically, mentally, and emotionally difficult for someone his age. When I asked him about who his hero was, he said that his mother's husband is his hero. He coincidentally had the same illness, and he passed away about 3 years ago. He admired him because he always had a positive attitude and a happy outlook on life. And now that he has the same illness, he really understands and connects with that way of thinking. So yeah, he just appreciated, he learned to appreciate every second that you live, and he learned that from his mother's husband. He also named other people as his heroes, anyone who defied the statistics and outlived a death sentence if they were given one when they were diagnosed with an illness. When I asked him when he knew he was growing up, he said that last year he hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, and he had a lot of time to be stuck in his head, a lot of time to learn more about himself, and it was during this time that he realized he was growing up. When he came back from the trail, he had this street bike that he really loved, and obviously he would abuse it and drive way too fast. But as he realized that he was growing up, realized what was important to him, he knew that he needed to sell it so he could see his nieces and nephews grow up. So this is a time when he realized that he was maturing. When I asked how he'd like to continue growing, he said that he wants to better understand other people's expressions of emotion and become a more patient person. The first area I looked at for his development was physical development, and that's changes in the body. His childhood was very normal, so up until a few months ago, he developed normally in the physical aspect. Since then, his weight has dropped by 25%, which is not normal until after the age of 60. Do you notice weight loss from age? His skin also began to sag because he was losing muscle, which is normal after age 50. His hair began to thin, and muscle loss, which is common after age 50. So he's only 27, but his body's dealing with things that people, over 50 years old deal with. And as an adolescent, most adolescents have an increase in the production of dopamine, which leads to reward seeking and risk taking, which could explain loving his street bike. And then at age 26, when he sold it, it's possible that he noticed a decline in the dopamine and wasn't seeking those risks anymore. I also looked at emotional development, and emotions are feelings that occur when a person is in a state or an interaction that is important to him or her. It can be influenced by a person's biology and also their experiences. He's a person that is able to regulate his emotions very well. He doesn't get very excited or let anger take control of him. He rarely has severe highs or lows, which was the same as when he was a child, and it could be possible that he had emotion coaching parents because he's able to control his emotions. He did state that he wanted to better understand others' emotions, which shows that he wants to grow his emotional competence by increasing his empathic and sympathetic sensitivity towards others. And since he was diagnosed with this illness, he has become much better at expressing and understanding his own emotions. I also looked at family, which is just another social system. He did say that his parents would spank him with a paddle or use physical punishment on him. And he was also yelled at frequently. This kind of punishment is associated with higher levels of compliance, which may be the reason why he always tried to obey his parents more, and why he respects people that are older than him. Punishment can also cause the child to avoid a parent. Yeah, but I would say in his teenage years, he started avoiding his dad, and his dad was the stricter parent. So this could have been what had an effect on their relationship. And also, as an adolescent, they pushed for autonomy, and his parents gave him a pretty good amount of freedom, but still tried to guide him into making good decisions. And what I learned from this project was that, certain events can cause your development to speed up or decline, and every day is just another opportunity to develop.